Hello, hello, humans. How are you guys doing? I am doing fantastic. And for those that are joining us for the first time, we are in the middle of the series that we're doing about how physicians can be prepped for any downturn, for any recession, or whatever, whatever. And as y'all know, I've been having some amazing humans come talk to you guys. I mean, honestly, okay, I'm gonna go on a little side, whatever. Like, I talk about how everything that I do at MoneyFit MD has been such a dream. It's been such a blessing for me. And part of the beauty of that is I literally get to sit down and think, what do humans need? What do my women need? And I get to create that. And part of that is I just sat down, I was like, what are some special circumstances that may be happening in our lives as physicians that I believe is going to be important for you to be prepped? And a subgroup is our locums docs. And if you're like, what the hell is locums? I'm like, where the hell have you been? You're like, so I have Dr. Freeman here to hang out with me, hang out with y'all. And again, none of us have a crystal ball about what the future is going to hold. However, what we can do is we can share what we're doing to be prepped and how you all can be equipped. Before I say welcome to Dr. Freeman, one thing is if you're like, I didn't know doctors do locums. I didn't know that it's possible for me. I want you to go to my podcast, The Money Fit MD. I don't remember what episode it was, but last year in 2021, I had Dr. Freeman come share locums and how it's the biggest secret that physicians don't talk about. So go listen to that. If you need to, listen to this recording, listen to this interview, and go find her and figure out how you can locum up your life if it's the right fit for you. So welcome, Dr. Freeman.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
No, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So, tell us who you are. I already talked a little bit about you, but tell us why people should listen to you.
Yes, so I'm Dr. Stephanie Freeman. I'm a board certified critical care physician and I'm a locums guru. I've been doing locums since 2008 and I work with physicians across the board, books, webinars, coaching, and teaching. And my passion is just helping physicians discover locums as a way in which they can help themselves practice medicine in a way that makes their soul happy. And so that's what I do. I help physicians who are transitioning from one job to another job, physicians that have lost their jobs, physicians who just don't know, physicians who may want a little extra income. I help physicians in all walks of life utilize locums as leverage so they can get from where they are to where they want to be.
I love that. I love that. I think there's so much misinformation about locums, and I actually do really think you guys should go listen to that previous episode because we covered a lot when it comes to locums. One, I think physicians sometimes we think about all or none. I either have an employed job, I either have my own private practice, or I have a locums. And I'm like, that's actually not true. Locums can be like the little extra sauce you have in your life. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I always recommend that every physician always do locums. And the reason why I say this is because there's no such thing as a permanent job. So I, honestly speaking, don't care about the economy. And the reason I tell you that I don't care about the economy is because I've lost jobs when the economy was great, and I've worked when the economy was not great. So my jobs don't fluctuate with the economy. So I don't care about it. Okay. When the economy is, oh, the economy's great. I'm still sitting up here like, y'all might think the economy is great, but I know what's going on behind these closed doors and these conversations that these people in these hospitals are having, and who's about to get fired, whose contract is about to be terminated, which group is about to be escorted out, which group is about to come in. So, economy or not, you always have to be prepared. And so, one of my favorite things to tell people is that there is no such thing as a permanent job. Even if you have a W 2 job, even if you have a W 2 job, your job is only as good, is only guaranteed based on what your termination clause says. Any physician can be fired at any time for any reason without cause, given a 30, 60, or 90-day notice. And even if you do locums, your assignments can be canceled with 30-day notice. There's no such thing as a guarantee. There's no such thing as a permanent job. There's no such thing as a 3-year contract, a 5-year contract, a 1-year contract. Your contract is only guaranteed based on your termination clause. So 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days from now, that's all you're guaranteed. So we have to kind of get out of that thinking of, oh, the economy's bad, let me prepare. No, you got to be prepared anyway. And so I always recommend that all physicians all have different sources of clinical income. And when I say locums, I don't just mean, oh, get on a plane, travel somewhere, work away from home. I mean locums in that manner. I mean moonlighting. I mean per diem. I mean anything extra that you can do that's not considered a traditional clinical job that will bring in some extra revenue. And I've been a proponent of every physician having that little side hustle, that little side piece that they can do to have some additional clinical revenue, because physician jobs do not go based on the economy. And anybody that's ever been escorted off of the premises with security and with your stuff in a box, you don't give a damn what the stock market's doing at that time in which you have to be walked out that door. So yeah, everybody has to be prepared at any time.
Well, I guess you don't have to have me explain why she's here. Right? Because that is such a big myth. The security, right? It's a myth.
It's a fact.
Security, it's a
It's a
myth.
lie. It's a
It's a
lie.
myth. And I know that as humans, we want security. And what I tell people is, the world can come crashing. You guys may remember this picture of this girl that was standing stoic in the middle of a riot. That is how I want us to be. And it's an internal state of thing, right? We look outside of ourselves for security when security is a state of internal state. That's where the mindset and the psychology piece comes to play, right? You have your emergency funds, right? You have your diverse income source. And you guys know that I talk about active and passive. Those are all important. But when we know that we have the ability to be resourceful in even our clinical, it gives us a sense of confidence that makes us speak and use our voices to a different extent. And I think that is, whether there's a recession or a pandemic or not, that is something that more and more physicians need to understand, the strength and the power of our voice, and knowing that we have options. Like anytime I read a post about a physician being let go, and this is not like a myth, this is real. Literally, one of my members in my program, this is someone that cares about her community, cares about humans. She cares about the Native American population. She, like a lot of us, we go to work when we're having a headache and running because we're like, we don't want to leave our patients. And this person asked for time off of work to take care of a health need. And guess what?
They
They
said
fired
no.
her.
Mm-hmm,
They let her go.
mm-hmm.
They let her go, right? And now she's doing this. She's like badass. She's doing real estate. She is doing her own micro practice. She's working part time for clinical practice. We need to change our mindset about what it means to work as a physician. And that's what this is about. But I love that you said whatever is going on in the economy, yes, it matters, but it also doesn't matter because you need to be prepped before. And that's the whole point of us doing this stuff and having all those physicians that are donating their time just to give to our community and to educate all of us. So, yes, tell
Yeah.
us. What else
But
should we know?
here's the
What should we
thing.
know? How do
Here's
we
the
do
thing.
this? Yeah, tell me.
Oh, here's the thing. In Atlanta, Georgia, y'all have heard this devastating story. The Atlanta Medical Center, which is owned by Wellstar, is closing on November the 1st. I was talking to a physician, and she said, and she had worked there for 10, 12 years. She said all of the physicians found out on the news that their place of employment was closing.
Wow.
This
Wow.
same company closed another hospital in the community. And the story that they give is that they were losing $100 million in this facility a year. But the real story is, and you know how they do our communities, is that they drained the resources from that
Of
tertiary
course.
care center, from that level one trauma center, and took it to the suburbs
Of
and
course.
built a new hospital in the suburbs, brand new state of the art hospital in the suburbs, totally leaving a community without the only two level two trauma centers, now only leaving them with one level two trauma center, and taking the resources to communities that don't look like us.
I believe it.
Blaming the economy, but we know that it had less to do with the economy and more to do about the management
Management. Yep.
of that company.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you that the higher levels got paid coming in and they're going to get paid going out. They already have their golden parachutes. So each of these physicians that's now jobless, who cares about the economy being up or down because they don't have a job right now. And so that's my whole point. And I've seen this happen. We've seen this happen with the presence of private equity owning these hospitals, owning these corporate medical groups. I got an email today in which Envision, which is one of the largest staffing companies, is in contract dispute with United Healthcare, which is the largest healthcare company. So you have one of the largest staffing companies in a dispute with one of the largest healthcare companies because that staffing company is out of network because they don't think that healthcare company, that insurance company is paying market prices for the service. How do you think that's going to end up? And who do you think is going to be, who do you think is going to take the fall for it? Physicians. And it has nothing to do with the economy. These companies are playing chess and we are playing checkers. And so the thing is, like you say, Dr. Latifa, is that we have got to figure out how we are going to practice medicine on our terms, to put our needs first without looking for this job, this assignment, this private practice that depends on reimbursements from insurance companies. We have to figure out how we could be our own best source of income and not be reliant on other people, because what these other corporate entities are doing, we have no control over. We're the ones that are being affected by it. And we have got to have our safety plan. We've got to have our plan, our strategies aside from what they're doing.
I love it. I love it. I love it. As you're talking, one thing that came to my mind is, we have to learn from other people as well. Nurses, a lot of nurses don't actually sign up for full time. They sign up for part time and then
Mhm.
they pick up extra shifts when they want it. So they can choose to do full time hours if they want to, but their baseline is part time hours. So
Mhm.
that way they're like, we're working 3 days a week. And so when they want to, now they pick up stuff in
Mhm.
other hospitals or in their own hospital or
Mhm.
whatever in order to be able to help them get the full amount that they want to do.
Mhm.
One thing that came to mind is there are many hospitals that employ physicians and, for lack of a better word, forbid them from using their medical license at other places. Is that
Mhm.
something that you've encountered?
Oh, absolutely. That's why I refuse to be a W-2 employee, because a lot of W-2 employees are prohibited from, moonlighting, are prohibited from doing locums, or they have to get permission, or they, depending on the contract you sign, or even depending on the contract you sign with a private group, whatever you make, they're entitled to. So you got to read your contract very closely. And that's one reason why I will always be 1099. I am willing to forego their benefits because I get my own, and I've established an organization for locums and independent physicians in which we could get health insurance at group rates, for that very reason. Because I don't believe that just because you work for somebody that they should own you. I don't believe that if your contract states that you're obligated to work for these people 40 or 60 hours a week or how many shifts a month, I don't think that they should be able to control your time when you're not working for them. I really don't believe that. And that's why I won't sign a W-2 contract. It limits your income earning potential. It limits your income earning potential when you operate like that.
And it also gives you the false sense of security to have a W-2 when the only person that thinks you have a secure job is you. As opposed to 1099, where both parties understand that, you know what? We're in a relationship that can change and it has to feed both parties. But when it's W-2, you think that you're in a committed relationship when they are, I don't know,
Right. So here's the
swiping.
thing. When you're 1099, you both know that you're dating and can see other people. When you're W-2, you think you're married, but the employer is looking to divorce you. and you don't know it.
That's
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, I hear so many stories because again, I talk about money. So a lot of times, unfortunately, people wait until something catastrophic happens. So I get lots of people that have gone through job loss or going through job loss. And, it's like a physician should not be needed to do Uber to pay their rent. Physicians
Yeah.
should not have to be doing like food delivery service. There's nothing wrong with those, but we have a degree in training that helps us earn at a higher capacity. Sure, do that if you want to, but it should not be because you don't have a choice. And
Mm-hmm.
so part of this is, yes, it's about money, but even more so, it's about your own sense of liberation and freedom, which is so, so important. This recording is not going to be out until later, but next, since we're chatting, next week I'm doing like a workshop, which is a financial liberation plan workshop for physicians. And
Mm-hmm.
part of what I talk about is diversifying their income. And that is why this is important because we can't put all of our eggs in one basket. And
Mm-hmm.
even if we're not actively doing it, knowing that it is an option
Mm-hmm.
is by itself a sense of freedom.
It is. And that's what I tell people, because I understand everybody can't do locums based on what your contract is. I get that. Everybody doesn't want to do locums. A lot of people don't like the change, don't like, the apparent instability of it. But what I want every physician within the sound of my voice knowing is that if you lose your job today, you can get another job tomorrow. You really can.
There's hope.
The biggest control factor is fear. And the biggest thing that people control us with is, oh, if you lose your job, you can't get it. Or it's going to take a no, 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 no. Mm-mm. You can have another job. And I want people to always realize that that locums is your safety net. It's your safety net so that, okay, this went away. I need another job. And here's the thing, I tell people, yes, we need multiple streams of income, but really and truly, your clinical income is still your number one source of income. So you need multiple sources of clinical income. You need multiple sources of clinical income because there's very few things that you can do today and bring home a check for $30,000 in 2 weeks. Very few things you can do like that. Locums is one of them. Okay. Ask me how I know. So therefore, I just encourage everybody to use locums as another source of clinical income so that you'll have that should you desire it or should the need arise. Because it's coming. It's if you haven't lost your job yet, work long enough and see what happens. Or, and it's not necessarily about a job loss, but sometimes you want to transition out of, sometimes you're just tired. Sometimes you're like, I'm done. I need a break. I need to do something else. I need to take a sabbatical. I just need to be at home. But you still want to keep your clinical skills up. You still want to have some income coming in. And locums is an option, a way for you to do both.
I love it. I love it. And I 100% agree with you that we have this training that can make money. So when I see physicians say things like, I'm not making money clinically, I don't have a source of income, or I lost my job, I'm like, you still have this training, and we just have to find where you can use this training. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's the mindset piece that comes into place, like you were talking about earlier, where it's like fear, it is shame, it is isolation and
Yes.
self-isolation. Like, I,
Yes.
I mean, this, and I don't speak lightly of suicide, and I know it's multifactorial, but no physician should ever feel like they have so much shame or lack of option to think that is the only way out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've read on the news recently I think the CFO for, I forget the name of this big
Bed
company,
Bath and Beyond,
Bed Bath
honey.
and Beyond. Yeah, right. There is hope. There is option. And I don't want you to wait until something bad happens before you know you have options. I want you to have this in
Right.
your back pocket anyway. We're going to share the
Exactly.
contact to Dr. Freeman. She's
Mm-hmm.
always willing to help physicians know that this is an option. That's why she's here. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know that when whatever happens to the economy, everybody in the mama worries about their clinical income. You don't know who's going to lose their jobs or not. Know that this is an option. You don't have to wait for a job loss. You may be under earning right now, and you're like, I don't want to be in a committed relationship with a hospital, but I want to make money because maybe you want to buy a property, maybe you want to invest in the stock market, and this clinical income is a seed that you use. That's what I tell my women, to plant trees. So if
Mhm.
you're like, I want to do locums for the next 6 months, where maybe I'm doing 2 weeks a month of locums, and I know that at the end of that time, I'm going to have this amount of money. And now I'm going to take that to invest in a syndication as part of a building or multiple buildings. And I've invested in the stock market. And after those 6 months, you can chill because you know how much you're spending every month on your cost of living. You've saved that up. So it
Mhm.
gives you control.
Mhm.
And that's what it's about.
Absolutely. And I just wrote a blog piece about actually why being fired was one of the best things that happened to me. And the reason why I wrote that is because of the things that I learned about myself and the things I learned about, medicine and the medical marketplace. But more specifically, is because we don't talk about it. We aren't taught about in our training, we aren't taught about the possibility that you as a physician can lose your job, that you could be fired, that you could be downsized, that you could be laid off. We're not taught about that. And so a lot of times there's a lot of secrecy and shame clouded in that. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to pull back the covers. And I wanted to say there's no sense of feeling ashamed about this, because we can get help or service help for one another. And that's why I wrote about it. And that's why I speak freely about it. And that's why with people that are unemployable, I will tell you that I've lost jobs. I will tell you that I've been escorted out of the premises with the walk of shame. I've been there. I've seen that happen. I've experienced it. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. And the thing that I really thought about this Bed Bath and Beyond CFO, it is amazing to me how the entire economy can be manipulated based on the actions of a few people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He committed suicide. He died by suicide because he was under federal investigation for a pump and dump scheme to artificially inflate the price of those stocks. Right around the time that they announced the fact that Bed Bath and Beyond is their stocks are at an all-time low, they're downsizing a substantial portion of their workforce, and they're closing stores. The same man who was in cahoots with him was the same guy that messed up GameStop stock. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, if you have a few people who can manipulate these stocks in these companies and manipulate the stock exchange, and by a few people can determine the actions of the economy of an entire nation, then what do you think is happening at your hospital behind closed doors?
Preach.
What do you think is happening when private equity is approaching your corporate medical group for your partners to sell out? Let's think about that. But we've been so conditioned as physicians to identify with what we do. And what do I mean by that? I mean that a lot of physicians cannot separate themselves from their job. And because they can't separate themselves from their job, they find that their sense of identity takes a big hit when they lose their job. But what I tell people, I said, your profession is separate from your career, and your career is separate from your job. Your profession is that you're a physician. Your job, I'm a critical care physician who does that's my profession, and my job is locums. Separate the three so that if any one of those things change, you still have your core identity and you're not in an existential crisis because somebody sold your company out and now you're out of a job.
One thing that I add to that as well is I go a step deeper and say that your profession is not who you are. Like
Not who you are.
you are who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are, and I think that's something that we've bought into, and it's not intentional. It's like a unconscious thing we've bought into,
Mm-hmm.
that we We live in a world where that is what is acknowledged as a
Right.
value. You're a physician, that puts you here. You're an engineer, that puts you, you're a teacher, that puts you up here, right? And we start to make that our identity. And the
Mhm.
downside to that is it's making us forget what our real identity is. And our identity is just us.
Mhm.
Like the moment we were born in our mother's womb, like we have of highest value we're ever going to be. And I don't
Mhm.
know about you, I don't think a baby is the most worthless person in the world. No, they're like do nothing, all they do is eat, poop, and scream all day, and they're 100% value. So like what we do is not our value. Our value is not even what we create. Those are just things that we do to make the world a better place. Our value is who we were born to be. And I don't want to lose my license. If I did, it would hurt, right? But it's so important to understand that we need to start separating all of that fluff from who we are, our identity. Our identity is you, whatever your name is. Like I literally had this conversation with my women yesterday when we were coaching in our program. I'm like, I don't, we think being a physician is what makes us badass. We think being a GI doc or an ICU doc, like none of that. You're a badass because that's just you were born to be. Like my name is Badass Latifat. Like it's, I can get married. I'm married. I have a different last name. I can get married again or change my last name, but it doesn't even change my identity because
Mhm.
it's, I was like,
Right.
that's a stem. You born, you stem, your date of birth, badass baby,
That's it.
right?
That's you know what, and that's and I totally agree. And I've done I've done Facebook lives about that. I'm like, you are not your job. You are not your career. You are not your profession.
You're not.
That's not what it is. So, because we've been so indoctrinated to identify with that, we will sit up here, and I've been that way. We will sit up here and have an existential crisis just because we lost a job, because we identify so much with that, we can't separate it. And
Yeah.
that's intentional. They manipulate us. They manipulate us and gaslight us and, prey on our altruistic, impressions as a physician. Oh, you want to take this extra call? We just need you just need to be more of a team player and blah, blah, blah for the good of the organization and blah, blah, blah and blah, 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 blah. And we give and 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 give. And then it gets taken away, it's not reciprocated, and then we're left with an empty space and a hole. And that's one of the reasons why I like locums, because the relationship is defined, it's transactional. It's a transactional relationship. PRN, 1099, you need me for a temporary amount of time. I show up, I do my work, you pay me. If you don't need me ever again, that's fine. It's transactional. And I like that because you know where you stand. But the problem with so many physician careers and physician jobs, and even being in private practice, is that oftentimes physicians are approaching their jobs from a relational standpoint when your employer is only looking at this as transactional. And because there's a disconnect between the two, there's some hurt feelings when they need to institute a transaction that you think violates the relationship.
Preach. Preach, preach, preach. Let me ask you a question. So someone's
Mhm.
listening to this and watching, and they're like, how long does it, I mean, I know it varies, but what's the, if I was looking for locums locally and just thinking if someone's like, okay, this is great. I didn't even consider this, but now I
Mhm.
know I'm not, I love my job. We're good. But if something happens, how long averagely does it take for people to get something?
Right. So it's going to take anywhere between 3 to 4 months for you to get a new job or even a locums job. And the limiting step is credentialing. Credentialing takes that long. That's the limiting step. So
Okay.
what I would tell everybody is just to begin the process now. Begin the process now. So if you are in a situation in which you have to do it sooner rather than later, you've already started. You've already started the process, because it's going to take about 60 to 90 or even 120 days, simply because it takes you that long to get credentialed. And that's in the event you already are licensed in the state in which you're looking at the opportunity.
Got it, got it. And I think it's really important for everybody listening. You've heard on other recordings for this series and also my podcast, the importance of having emergency funds. That's the
Mm-hmm.
value of having emergency funds. And, you know, some people can say 3 months of expenses. I think 6 months is reasonable. So just knowing that if something was to happen, remember the reason why you have an emergency fund is so that you can be taken care of. So if you are in a position where you want locums and you're out of something right now, you know that your emergency funds are going to be there. So it's not time to freak out. It's time to trust that you've prepared your
Right.
insurance for yourself, which is your emergency fund. So again, if you're able to start prepping right now, that is great. But if you're like, okay, I'm not ready, I'm good, but I just want to know I have backup so I can have an extra pep in my step and speak the truth at work and call BS when it's not serving my patients and solving my wellness, you know that the emergency fund is how you do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
what anything else you want to share with our people? This has been great. And I honestly think it pairs greatly. And I'm being intentional about not asking you the questions I've asked before because y'all, I'll probably tell my staff to like link it to this whenever this is, so you guys can go there and listen to some of the stuff we've shared about locums. But anything else you think would be great for people to know if something was to happen? What else?
Right. So if something were to happen, the first thing I would recommend is do not freak out. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Please remain calm. Remain calm.
Find
Reach
music
out
to
for
play.
help.
Dance
Reach
first.
reach out for help. Reach out for help. Don't suffer in silence, don't suffer in shame, because there is nothing that you're going through, nothing that you've experienced that somebody else hasn't gone through or experienced. Get help and reach out. And once you reach out and get help, receive the help that people are giving you and settle down. Settle down. Calm all of this down. You might take a day or two or a week to freak out, but after you have your freak out period, calm down. Because when you're calm and when you're still and when you're silent, that's when you can hear from God. And that's when you know what your next step is. So do not panic. Don't panic, plan.
Don't panic, plan. I love that. You know, Tony Robbins says this thing about change your state, change your life.
Mhm.
And I've known that, but I didn't really let it sink until recently because a lot of times we're looking for things from the outside to help us change how we feel. And I used to be annoyed with my husband about this because when sometimes things happen and I'm like, okay, I'm irritated or I'm annoyed. And then he may try to do things to try and change the energy of the room. And I'm like I'm annoyed. Like I want to be annoyed, right? And so when things happen, you may go into a state of shock. Be very careful about waiting for the external to change before you get out of a shock. Like you actually have the power to change your state. And the way he does that, Tony Robbins does a lot with music and sound. So if you've ever watched any of his stuff, they play music. When they start to see the energy in the room change, they play music and different tunes to change the energy. So it may make no sense. But when something happens and you see that, okay, I'm about to go into a state of shock, it's okay to find something that's going to change your state.
Mhm.
Music is great. It doesn't have to make sense, but you may have to, bounce out the Beyonce, who runs the world, girl, like whatever. Like well, find your stuff.
You
Like
are
for
break
some
my
people, it's
soul. That was like the anthem of the summer.
yep, yep, exactly right. You won't break my like find something just to because you are going to be able to think better when you're like reminding yourself that no one is allowed to break your soul. And for some people, it's worship music, it's prayer, it's meditation. Those things help spiritually, but they also help with changing your state so that your brain can be in a better fluid and better situation to be able to think. Because we need it to be able to plan. And doesn't mean it doesn't suck, doesn't mean you're not going to cry and whatever that those are human, but when it comes time to plan, we don't want you to go down the spiral of hopelessness, and part of the way you do that is by changing your state. Don't freak out, don't panic, plan, and the way you plan is now before something bad happens. I love it, I love it.
Absolutely.
This has been so good.
Absolutely.
This has been so
Yes.
good. I'm so glad I invited you.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
No,
Absolutely.
thank you for coming. Well, this has been great. We're gonna share how people can find you, but for those that are listening and have great memories, can you tell us how can they find you? Because I feel like everybody should literally just go to your website, get in
Yes.
your email list, at least know where to find you, and have you as an action plan right now or an insurance policy for, how they're going to be able to equip themselves.
Yeah, so my website is www.drstephanie at, no, that's my email address. My website is www.drstephanieicu.com. My email address is drstephanie@drstephanieicu.com. I am on Facebook and you can DM me. I'm always on Facebook. And I also have a Facebook group, Creating Careers in Medicine. So you can join that group. And so I'm really easy to find on Facebook. And like I said, I'm on Facebook all the time. So you can always slide DM me in order to contact me, and I'll get you scheduled for a 15-minute complimentary coaching session.
Thank you for what you do. I mean, I love what I do, and I think I fall in that group with a lot of physicians. And maybe I'm not going to generalize, but I love what I do. I'm grateful to do what I do. But I also know that when I started to remind myself that locums was an option, there is, I mean, and I'm talking as someone that has diversified income source. We do real estate, we do stock market, my spouse earns great income. Like we have options, but there's still something about knowing that my clinical brain can make money whatever happens to my employed position. And for me, that makes me breathe
Absolutely.
a little bit easier. So thank you for what you
Yes,
do.
absolutely. And thank you for what you do. And thank you for having me. And I'm always available.
When are you going to start your podcast? You never told me you're thinking of a podcast, but I'm just
Oh,
asking.
no, no. I mean, you're not the first person to ask me that. Um,
You don't have to. Just
no.
okay. All right. Well, we'll follow you on your website, and whenever you have a
I
podcast,
do
we'll know what
Facebook
to.
Lives. I
Okay.
do Facebook Lives in my Facebook group. So that's as
Okay. All right.
to a
Go
podcast
find
as
our
I'm going to
Facebook
get.
group and get in there so you can learn and stay connected. There are different ways. She has blog, she has email, she has
Yeah.
Facebook. If you can't find a way to connect, then
Mhm.
maybe there's a problem.
Right.
All right. Thank you so
All
very much.
right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, guys, for listening. We're going to stop the recording. And remember, we want every human to get this information. So share this with all the women. The reason why we're doing this is value add to the medical community. Share, share, share everywhere. And don't forget to leave us a review on any platforms where you're watching or listening. Thanks, guys.